Oh,
Okay, this is weird.
Oh wow, they look great.
One second.
That's
This is super weird. Okay.
hello and welcome to the Drunkduck Quackcast. This is Quackcast number 602. I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is Baines and Tan Serene. Hello.
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 This week we're talking about a Quackcast based on a title. And the title was something that, okay, we were talking about the idea of revolutions, where the revolutionaries become, as in the Who song, the famous line, basically you say hello to the new boss, same as the old boss. I think that's the line. And it's basically the revolutionaries that become exactly what they were fighting against. And Tance's excellent summation of that was, "It's my turn now, bitches." And that's what the title's going to be. It's basically when the victim becomes the victor.
Yeah.
And when they take advantage of that. And we see this all the time in pop culture, in comics and stuff like that. When someone is being picked on, they turn the tables, and how do they react? Do they become as bad as the bully who was picking on them? Or do they take a higher road, and what do they do? And what does that say about them? And this is interesting. It's really interesting. I like to see that. It really sort of defines, okay, is this person really, do we really need to support underdogs who are just arseholes? How much of that is justified? Or, is it the mark of a truly heroic character who sticks to their guns and stays heroic when they're in a position to lord it over everyone? So
Yeah.
that's what we're going to talk
Or
about.
there's a third question. Is it okay because the victim is an asshole?
That's right. That's a huge part of it.
It is.
And
we're going to delve into all the dark nooks and crannies of this idea. But first, we've got the featured comic. Quackcast is going to tell us all about Dave Skunk comic. So, Quai, please tell us about Dave Skunk comic.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is Dave Skunk comic by Creative Crypt, and it is rated M for mature. There is no better way to spend a lazy day than couch surfing with Dave Skunk as he snacks on a surfeit of juicy nematodes. The embodiment of the early 90s grunge movement and counterculture in so much as Dave's abilities to maintain a mohawk, indulge on insomnia-fueled VHS tape binges, percolate through coffee-powered video game marathons, and narrowly avoid an alien abduction. Dave is an adventurer and explores many exotic landscapes on foot before landing in an environment eerily similar to a surrealist nightmare. This 2x2 panel comic is illustrated in black and white, with great attention given to facial expressions and clean line work. Rated mature for alcohol use and grown-up recreational activities. Hang out with an anthropomorphized skunk's circle of eccentric humans, and read Dave Skunk comic by Creative Crypt, rated M.
And that was Quackcast telling us all about Dave Skunk comics. Alright, so after that, Carmelos has given us a theme, and his theme this week was the music to Crimson Stars. Crimson Stars. Great title for a comic. Really cool. So, it's a comic I featured a couple of weeks ago as well. So, his theme, it's a creepy gothic horror techno landscape of winking red stars and the pale blue trailing lights of ion drives in deep space. This is a cold world of blackness, danger, and vampires. The music really sets the scene. So take it away, Gummoss, with the theme to Crimson Stars. Crimson Stars, which is a comic by a fellow called Commissar Tarkin, which is a very interesting name. I like it. All right. Okay, so when the victim becomes the victor, this is interesting. How do they handle it? Now, this is the quandary. How do they handle it when the revolutionary becomes the dictator, when the aspiring politician becomes the president? All these kind of things. When the victim gets when they beat the bully, or when they become in a position of power over the bully, how do they handle it? Now, in classical terms of a superhero comic, you'd expect, so the Superman kind of character, or say when a character is a nerdy kind of character, like, I don't know, Peter Parker or something like that, they get this superpower. Now, do they immediately go, ha ha ha, now I can show the bully what's what? Or do they go, like, I'm going to be above this because I have this power, so I'm not going to abuse it. Because I'm like a heroic character, so as a mark of my heroism, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I've been like in the position of the downtrodden. I know what it feels like. Should I?
I mean, funny you mentioned specifically Peter Parker because.
Oh, go on, Baines. Tell us about Peter Parker. Hello?
I think I was disconnected. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah.
There was a massive delay. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I had a bad connection there for a minute. My Peter Parker thing was like delayed literally by 30 seconds or something. But it's funny you mentioned Peter Parker because his origin story is literally about that, about how he gets his power. He's this underdog kind of guy, this little bit of a social outcast. He's struggling in multiple ways, money and social life and all that stuff. And he, when he gets his powers, he does become kind of full of himself through that process. And the tragedy happens. I think most people probably know the story, and that's how he learns his early lesson about, his power and responsibility. So he's like definitely a good example where that this whole principle we're talking about is built into the character.
Yeah, his uncle Uncle Ben dies, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's
it
a
is
sort
like
of
domino.
events because of Victor's behavior. It happens. Yeah.
But so one of his biggest bullies throughout the whole series of Spider-Man is Jonah Jameson, his boss at the newspaper he works at, or he does photography for. But he never, he could, if he wanted to, he could exact all kinds of mean, horrible, evil revenge on Jonah Jameson. But he never goes to that level, ever. Does he ever get kind of petty revenge on Jonah Jameson?
I think when he gets the black costume, he does some stuff. Not really anything
Venom.
serious. Well, yeah, before Venom. I think that he becomes a lot more anti-heroish in the sense that he comes very close to actually killing, and he is pretty acerbic and sort of kicks back and totally has this bully vibe about him. While being infected by the
so it's specific
extraterrestrial thing
to that arc. But in general, he's like you say, Bones, he sort of learns his lesson with Uncle Ben, and then he tends to be a good guy generally, doesn't he? I mean, he doesn't use his power for being an arsehole over anyone. And this is a good mark of a superhero character, like a traditional classic. And that's not this is something I admire, really. People tend to make fun of superheroes or look at them as being naive or whatever. And I think that's totally a wrong idea, because anyone who knows what it's like to be an underdog, and yet they use their power for good, so to speak, and they don't use their power for evil, or not evil, but to get back at people because they're on top now. That's actually much harder to do. That takes a lot of balls. That takes a lot of bravery to be able to do that, and not many people can do that. So that is why I think that these characters are superheroes, because they're doing things that not many people are able to do, to be able to not be venal, not show hubris. That's a hard.
I think even
the
the nature of superhero, in the sense that they have this hidden identity for the heroics, so to speak, and they have this other identity that they keep, like their regular identity that is not the superhero one. So these people that would do this clearly are not looking for validation through this, because if they were, they wouldn't be hiding their identity. Even if they were afraid for their families and so on and so forth, they still would have some way of getting social validation.
Which I rather like. I think that's something important that people who write superheroes need to be able to stick with, and not go, not fall for this this popularist idea of when they try and update things for the current generation, and the Twitter generation, which is actually not really like a modern kind of thing. Really, it's more about people being very narcissistic more than anything. That's really what it's a mark of. Oh, I'm doing this today. This is me. This is I'm doing, and they did that with Spider-Man in the Tom Holland movies because he's on Twitter and he wants to tell people how great he is and he wants to be open about it, and he's like being one of these assholes. Talking about how great he is and that kind of stuff, and wanting to show off. And there's the frisson between Iron Man telling him to sort of hold back a bit, and him wanting to be heroic, which is probably not really the essence of Spider-Man. It's more like they're wanting to make him connect with the youth, like hello fellow children, that kind of thing. Because it's clearly a child written by people who aren't children, trying to make him fit in with that. But it's going against what that kind of character is. Anyway, I've sort of fallen down a little hole here because a lot of people love Tom Holland's portrayal, and I think it's just a bit immature, really.
Yeah, I don't remember the stuff. I mean, I remember that first movie where Iron Man's mad at him, but I only saw it once. I don't remember it very well. I like his portrayal personally, but none of the Spider-Man movies have really done it for me. I love the last one, but that's mostly for the fan service of it.
Yeah,
I think.
I haven't seen that yet. I've got to catch up with them all. This is fucking an aside. I'm really dipping into it, but the first Tom Holland one, I think, is fighting the Vulture. Is that right?
Right.
Keaton as the Vulture, which I liked because he was in this movie called the Birdman, I think it was. I love that kind of that tie-in. But the film really didn't sit right with me. It was crap in so many ways. I mean, you've got the CGI Spider-Man who looks like he's Gumby made of rubber. It's just so shit. For a modern film to have CGI like that, oh god, it's like his face is like super bendable. But yeah, we're falling. I am falling down a hole. This is me. You guys aren't doing it. This is me going off topic. Okay, so victims that become the victor. Let's see. Well, this is.
I think a nice. Sorry for interrupting.
Go
on. A good movie that explored this was Megamind. If you have seen it, it's an animated feature film, and it is a very interesting premise in the sense that Megamind is this story about two Superman type characters, but one becomes like the Superman of this world and the other one becomes the villain. But he's not really a villain. He's this sort of awkwardly witty fellow that has this relationship with his counterpart where they fight each other, but it's not very serious in the sense that they are not really looking to kill each other.
Yeah.
But then something happens, and that's the starting point of the story, where supposedly the Superman character dies as a result of what the villain character did. And so there is this power vacuum in the sense and this villain character now becomes the ruler of this country, world, city, whatever it is.
Sounds good.
It is. I think it's one of the most clever original animated movies out there. Highly recommended. I really like the script as well. So this guy now, he's the villain and he has won.
Yeah.
And now he has to, like, we see, okay, now he has won. What happens after this? And that's the thing. In parallel, and that's where I'm going with this, because I don't want to spoil it. We have this Lois Lane type character, and what was the photographer's name? Jimmy something. Jimmy is well. Anyway, she has this photographer, goody-looking guy that is a bit like an underdog, and he's very he's the good guy.
Yeah.
Following around the Lois Lane character, and he comes into power. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
And see how he develops now that he has power, and he is not a powerless character that we root for as an underdog.
Yeah.
So this movie is this exact exploration. So highly recommended. I think they handle it super well for all characters involved. And that. I just don't want to spoil it because...
Yeah, so you're being very cagey about it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it because part of the impact of the movie is in the, not very many, but in the twists that it has after the middle point. So totally check it out.
Oh yeah, it's good. And I won't spoil either, but the cameraman is a type of person that you hear talked about in popular culture, in real life.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's captured pretty well.
Oh, okay. Oh, that sounds impressive.
Yeah, and that is the message. Current politics done right. This is a movie that has current politics in it. And when I say current politics, I mean pop culture politics, discussions about things that are
relevant.
Not controversial, maybe controversial. In my opinion, they shouldn't, whatever. They are controversial online, at least. And, but it's done so well that you don't really notice it. You notice it after the story is done. And I think that's the way to do it if you want to put politics in the movie. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it distracts you from the politics that are there. Politics. This is because you did your recent news post about politics, and I made this point that it's not. People call it politics in these mediums, but it's really they're just describing politics to it because they disagree with it. And it's a damn complicated subject. All right, so I was thinking in terms of things like also sitcoms, where you have and there's a classic setup where you have the main character who is a bit of an underdog, maybe a bit nerdy or whatever, and they get picked on by this bully character. Like you could even think about, say, Back to the Future. They've got a classic thing with the big bully. So the bully is Biff.
Yeah.
And he bosses this guy's like Michael J. Fox's character. He bosses his dad around, which he really hates. And Biff also becomes a bully specifically to Michael Jackson's character as well. Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox. Marty. There we are. Marty. When Marty goes back in time into the 1950s or the 1960s, I can't remember. When he goes back in time, Biff becomes a bully to him as well. And Marty is in a position to get back at him. And Marty's dad is in a position to get back at him as well when he's in the future. And I don't know, we do kind of cheer it because he doesn't really, at least when it's in the past, when Marty gets back at Biff, it's sort of like a just desserts. He's not really abusing power getting back at him, really, is he? He's just like turning the table slightly, and it's a comical kind of getting back. But when it's in the future, and it's like the end of the film, like spoilers for a film that's like 30 years old. I think that's all right. But say we're in the future now. Biff is this like guy who's put upon and is washing the car or something, isn't he? You may remember this better than me, Baines, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like treating him like a servant. Now, from my point of view, I found that really disappointing. I didn't see that. Like, in the 1950s, when Marty got back at him, and I think, like, his car got full of manure or something, that was hilarious. That was funny.
Mm-hmm.
But Biff being like, oh, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, master, and washing this guy's car, I found that distasteful. I found that really awful to me. That was not like a just desserts thing. That's like, yeah, you're just abusing your power now. I thought that was awful. So
I mean, that's not one that bothers me. Like in general, I agree with you that I can get bothered by the quote unquote punishment that the villain gets at the end sometimes. Very easily, it can seem like too much. In that case, it wasn't for me. I mean, Biff is free not to take the auto detailing job from George McFly if he doesn't want to, you know. And the sort of the dynamic was more like the social, like the power of George, personality-wise, over Biff was what it was all about. And it wasn't. It was like, you know, I want let's make sure we get 2 coats of wax on the car, you know, and Biff like tries to deceive him, you know. That, I just finished it up. He's like, don't con me, Biff. He's like, I was just about to start. You know, he doesn't let Biff get away with what he used to get away with. But I mean, to me, that was like, you know, the guy tried to rape my future wife, not letting him con me 30 years later on the waxing job I hired him for. That's not so.
I don't quite remember it so well. So.
Yeah, I didn't remember it in detail. I just, the thing that I objected to more than anything is like his him being subservient to that guy, and him being.
I can see it being uncomfortable. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what though? In that, like, again, I don't quite remember it. I remember very few scenes from all 3 movies, but a character like Biff, if he was stripped of his power, he would be super subservient. Like, that is part of his personality. Not necessarily personality, but that's how a lot of people that are power abusers act when that power, for whatever reason, is stripped from them. And you can see that in real life as well as in fiction. Like, if you have a person that is super, like, has he gets aroused by, you know, flaunting their power, then if that is taken away, you will see groveling and subservience and stuff like that. And there is an explanation why this happens, but I don't think it's like necessary now to go into that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't like to see it, but that would be how Biff would react. And I think, doesn't he get the almanac at some point? And
well, I was going to say in part 2, yeah, we do see another vision of Biff where he gets to change his own history and and give himself a lot of power with the, you know, the ability to get as rich as he wants to get with the future sports almanac. Then he becomes a complete monster.
Yes, he becomes the proto.
Guy on a leash is better.
The proto Donald Trump. Basically, is a prediction of the future. It was very prescient, however you say that word.
I do think that is a little bit cartoony, like the entire thing. It is a lot more
prescient,
I think, devastating in a way. If you have a character that you consider heroic, and then they succeed, and unfortunately, you see that there is a lot more movie left. Or there is a lot more series left, like more episodes left. And they don't immediately decline, but they quickly, like you see it happen before your eyes, that they begin abusing, making small abuses for
Yeah.
the good of, insert whatever it is, the good of the people, the good of the country, the good of the family, what have you, whatever the stakes
The
are.
ends justify the means.
Yeah, and then you know that, okay, this is going to be the new villain now that the old villain is out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
an excellent,
devastating, isn't it?
it is. I hate it, but I also love it in the sense, like, mad respect to the creators that do this, because you are like watching one of your brain children slowly, like, go rotten, and it's not a very nice thing to watch. Um, and that is partly why I haven't finished the third book of The Art of Whaling yet, because I don't really want to write that part. But anyway, uh, anyway, um, the thing is that, not the thing is, but I wanted to give an example. Like, if you are into Korean dramas, an excellent character arc that does this exact thing can be found in a pretty famous, like, all-time high historical Korean drama that is called Empress Ki. Any K-drama nerd out there will know who I'm talking about. But in this story is like a fictional presentation of how this real empress, that was, I think, the only empress that wasn't Chinese. She was Korean, and she became actually Empress of China. So how she came into this position. And it is very, very well done, very, very well acted. But she has one supporter that is awesome. He is excellent. He's not a lover or anything like that, but he, like a mentor, he makes her who she is in a very big way. Teaching her, the ins and outs of the court, how to deal with certain things, politics, Sun Tzu stuff. Like, it's amazing. Like, if you like politics, willing, dealing, and plots and mysteries and stuff like that, just check it out as a series. And then she becomes empress. Well, almost empress. Anyway, she becomes like the favorite of the emperor. Set to become empress, and that's when he turns, because he doesn't want a Korean person on the throne.
Oh, okay.
He finds that the throne will be sullied by someone inferior than the Chinese. So and that is so devastating, because yeah. And you watch it happen slowly. Like, he slowly does little things, and then he does bigger things and bigger things and bigger things, and yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's good
Those
when
are
it's shown that
hard
way.
to watch.
I was thinking also a classic ones are like the rise to evil of certain characters. Like Scarface is a good example, although he was always going to be bad. I haven't seen Godfather.
Well,
but I
the
imagine it's
Godfather,
the same thing.
You have the pure guy that was not a mafia lord in the Godfather, and then he becomes.
Yeah. Breaking Bad as well. The guy is like, he's fighting for his survival pretty much, but he's a good guy. He's good, and he's an underdog. And he clearly becomes a super evil mastermind in this very kind of, like, very straightforward kind of fall. Because that's what the whole theme of it is, Breaking Bad, which means, someone who is good and they just suddenly become bad for some reason. And that's what he does. And you see, not only does he sort of become bad, he becomes super bad. So he goes right through the black hole and out the other side, further than anyone could even predict. So that's interesting. And he really was an underdog, like this poor teacher taking advantage of some kind of like discovery he has being stolen by some other scientists. I think there's kind of hinted at. He's a good teacher pretty much, and but his students don't respect him, and then he's working at a car wash to make ends meet, and really, really being put upon and seen as being lower than low by most people because he's poor, which is the culture there. And then he he gets cancer, and basically nothing else matters, and he's prepared to do anything to help his family survive. And he's not even fighting for himself anymore. It's like he really is an underdog. He's just wanting a good life for his family, but he falls in this world of evil. It's not even a world of evil. It's just
it's a different world.
It's a different world, but he becomes evil, and he really, really does. And we as an audience go along with the ride. But he basically is an evil kind of mastermind not even by the end, by like halfway through the first series, I think, or maybe by the end of the second series. And
he's Biff. It was a spin-off about the good Biff that happens to him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And we really do see that. Sorry, Tan's gone.
No, I was saying that a botched attempt to do this is in Game of Thrones, Daenerys. Like she pretty much makes herself, like she invents herself after being thrown.
Yes, I was going to bring that
basically
up.
To the wolves. Yeah, and we root for her, and she has all these ideals, and she really sticks to her guns, although she does it in a violent way. But you give that a pass because such is the world. Like if she doesn't do that, she cannot basically do anything. So and everyone's language is basically violence. Let's all,
Yeah, kill each other's grandmothers and sons and childs and stuff.
Yeah. And so she is the best contender for the Iron Throne.
Yep.
Out of everyone, in my opinion, including what's his name?
Jon Snow.
Yeah. So because I don't know, I mean, he always felt to me he was kind of tasteless.
Yeah.
A little bit. But anyway, I mean, okay, and then you have her being this amazing empress that has made herself, and then would be the start of the downfall. Okay, but they do it in such a weird, awkward, rushed manner that makes no sense. But if it was done right, she would have become like an icon for that kind of character, like the character that becomes corrupted basically once they gain the power that they sought in order to break the will, like to do well, to do good. So yeah, they get the will and they don't break it in the end. So I would totally be on board for that, by the way. Although I would be disappointed and devastated, I would accept that as a character progression. But they botched it.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much the sentiment of almost everyone who was into that series was like, oh, this is out of nowhere. This character's like betraying every kind of like standard or ethics that this character has espoused so far, or like it just is betraying the logical kind of character progression that has been built up suddenly is she's just done this about face and it doesn't fit and it feels wrong, and consequently it's lessened our enjoyment in the show.
Yeah. It's not like you're not disappointed in the character or devastated. You're like, bleep this shit. Like this can't have been the way things happen. And if the audience says that,
it's bad writing as opposed to just being disappointed about the direction that the writers took the character. It's like, no, you messed up. This is uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable because it's like because this is not something I'm comfortable. It's out of my comfort zone. It's more like this is uncomfortable because it's been done wrong. It's like hitting the wrong note when you're playing music. You're not playing jazz. You just messed up.
Yeah, exactly. And it could have been an amazing discussion on that. In the Game of Thrones, the way to win is not to play. Like nobody can win if they play the Game of Thrones.
That's pretty clever, Tans.
That would have been awesome, as a matter of fact. I would like mad respect for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But no.
Well, you have to have good writers for that kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're pretty few and far between in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Not to belabor a cliche, but, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, Game of Thrones is an excellent example with Daenerys, because, I haven't seen it, but I know it. Everybody knows it.
Everyone does so.
YouTube video reactions to that. Yeah, it's a famous kind of fall. Now, Baines, you mentioned something which was interesting in our... I don't know, maybe we were talking before, maybe it's our Patreon view, but the Star Wars stuff. Okay, so they were trying to do this kind of thing in the prequel movies, right? With Anakin, with Darth Vader.
Well, Tans was talking about, I think, the well-intentioned character who slides, meaning well, but kind of gets taken off the path step by step and loses their way. Yeah, that was kind of the Anakin story.
Well, so, Anakin is, they start him out as some sort of, like a little slave boy who's put upon by these these kind of meanie kind of slave owner kind of people who are there to treat him like a second class citizen, and he's pod racing as a way to better himself or whatever. And he's got this excellent fortunate luck to be chosen by a Jedi, and he kind of betters himself. But so he doesn't use that newfound power over the people who pissed all over him. I don't think, from memory, he doesn't go and squash that four-winged guy.
He does, doesn't he? I mean,
does he?
Doesn't he go back to But I don't think that falls in that category in the sense that he goes to eliminate everyone who was or at least he considers responsible for his mother's death, and I think so.
Does he?
Yeah, off camera, but he does.
Oh.
But beyond that, I don't think that he does anything else, at least for a while.
Yeah, because they want to make him basically have that Scarface kind of rise to evil. So, yeah. It's interesting. Well, and it wasn't really done well, was it? Because, we see him with this awkward romance in the second movie, and then in the final one, his turn to evil, which is just because his wife dies of a broken heart or something. I can't remember. It's really crap. He's manipulated into evil by the nasty meanie Senator Palpatine and
Yeah.
blah 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 blah.
Well, yeah, I could see that though. I mean, he was being groomed basically, so I could totally see that. What I don't see is how all the Jedi's didn't get wind of it. So
Yeah,
Right.
I think the problem is because it is so amateurish in its writing, so crude, that it's hard to have an intelligent discussion about it. We just go, okay.
I think the ideas are there because I've sort of read up on it a little bit after the fact, and the idea was that the Jedi Order was kind of wrapped up in bureaucracy, wrapped up in dogmatism,
right.
and they kind of lost their way. I don't know if that really came through in the movies for me, but there were good solid ideas there story wise. For a Jedi Order that wasn't really working properly, and that's why things were allowed to fall. Plus the evil influence, of course, but
Yeah.
the good
Yeah.
influence there, it kind of it fell apart.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that. I didn't get that impression. I got the impression that the Jedi Council was a bunch of stuffy, people that were disconnected perhaps from certain things, but
Yeah.
not that they were off their game in terms of being Jedi. Like you have,
Well, true. You watch them fight, and they're like, it's
yeah,
incredible and dazzling. It's like, okay, well, they seem to be able to do anything.
mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah. So, and the point isn't like, okay, yeah, I could see, what, not realizing that the senator and emperor to be was corrupting the Padawan, I think. Something.
Yeah. The
So
Patty
yeah, I
Melons.
could see that. Yeah, but at some point he would have to have started feeling in the Force like a Sith in making, and that's my gripe with all this. Like there should have been this cutoff point beyond which all the Jedi within like a range or something should have sensed, oh my god, I sense something dark in you. What is going on with you?
If they sense
Yeah.
stuff, then they should have sensed that.
That's the thing. That's the only thing that I have a problem with. I could totally see up until then that nobody noticed. Sure, absolutely. But if you are, these awesome Jedi's with these awesome force powers, awesome, yeah, and you cannot sense darkness underneath your nose, basically.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Then you're
It
not
just
so
didn't
awesome.
quite come together,
yeah.
unfortunately.
What would have been awesome? I say awesome a lot. I don't know why, but I'm sorry. But what would have been really good would have been
Everything is
if they were
awesome.
corrupted. Yeah, if they were corrupted Jedi, in the sense that not as good as they should be, not very good with the lightsaber, not very good with the Force,
Yeah,
Yeah, that
not
would have
very
been a
good
good
with
idea.
meditating.
Yeah, as if
maybe it was more about political power, and they had kind of
Yeah.
lost the way. I mean, you could see that. I think, like I said, I'm pretty sure that was the idea, but it just didn't really. It wasn't really realized in the movies themselves.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I love what. Oh yeah,
if the
not to
positions
interrupt.
were more like ceremonial rather than just like say if you go back to the old British system back in the old days when being a general was or being like an officer was about paying for your commission, and rising in the ranks was about the politics. And at certain points in history, when there'd been peace for a long time, that meant, the hierarchy was dominated by just, upper class twits who had no ability to lead in war at all. was just because it was seniority. Everybody got kind of promoted on basically according to who joined up first. Oh, someone else, and you couldn't become like a field marshal until everybody else had been promoted ahead of you, pretty much. And that was how it was, like everyone. So that's how they should have portrayed them, like the Jedi, as being just like you were saying, political appointees. It's
that could have been fantastic. Yeah.
And you would have like a church versus religion thing, in the sense that like they are distancing themselves from the faith, and they are just becoming the church.
Yeah.
And they are maybe excommunicating anyone who goes against them, and that's how they could have distanced, like kicked out Yoda out, so that he also didn't see it in Anakin, because he was like on the other side of the galaxy or something like that.
On the fringes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a political movie, by the way.
Very much
it would have been, yeah. And you could easily have based it on, real life kind of situations where that had happened, like the Roman Empire or whatever, the Byzantine Empire, all these kind of empires that kind of failed because they became too involved in their own politics to realize what was happening. All right.
Exactly.
Well, so that's it. We're almost over, so we should like bring it back to the topic of when the victim becomes the victor. The old boss is, say hello to the new boss, same as the old boss. I think it's bad when it's a betrayal of what the character stands for, just so they can get revenge. I think that's when it's bad. But when it's not, when it's about some kind of character progression, then it's interesting. So when it's deliberate, when it's thought out, then it's a good thing to do. But when you just mess up and you get too hung up in the idea of revenge, then you fail your character and your readers or your audience. So I think that's the takeaway there.
Yeah, it starts feeling out of character in a sense.
Exactly, out of character. All right, thank you very much for listening to Quackcast number 602.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And look out for the Drunkduck Awards. The red carpet is starting, or actually has started by the time you hear this. Go check it out.
Yes, on the site, Drunkduck Awards.
It's your turn now, bitches.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.